he's got his column out now with the dim gas, and it's like this. What the folks in Fayetteville haven't learned their lesson, huh?
It seems that way, Dave, doesn't it? Right. So you will recall that the folks in Fayetteville, the law school up there, chose a candidate to be the next dean. The current dean is retiring, and they chose a candidate to be the next dean. And they never consulted with the legislature. They never consulted with
the executive,
folks in the executive. And then when the announcement was made, guess what? Some legislators and some folks in the executive said, we have some concerns.
Yeah. Have you seen they wrote this or they've said this or whatever?
And indeed, by the way, I think there was some miscommunication to make it more palatable about how the objections were characterized.
Okay.
I think that really the objection is that across America, legal academia is overwhelmingly leftist, and the candidate that was chosen was a perfectly capable individual, but she demonstrated no signs that she was going to change the focus of legal academia to be welcoming and encouraging of conservative viewpoints. The problem with most of legal academia is it teaches half the law, not all of the law. And so these folks in the legislature, et cetera, did express concerns. The University of Arkansas at Fayetteville withdrew the offer to this professor from South Carolina. And they said, well, we're going to start a search over later. But in the meantime, we'll fill the spot with an interim dean. And they announced last week, I think it was, these are the two finalists, internal finalists for the interim dean. That's how an interim dean typically is chosen, right? Because it's just a holdover. So you take someone at the entity. You don't hire someone, because then what do you do 2 years later?
Yeah, somebody is going to act as the bridge.
That's right. But I spoke to folks inside the school, and I spoke to folks in the legislature, et cetera. And none of them were even contacted about these. Well, to be clear, the outsiders, the insiders were contacted, but the outsiders weren't contacted. And I thought to myself, well, wasn't that the very dilemma that gave rise to the school doing an about face on their offer to this woman from South Carolina? And so I contacted the university. To their credit, by the way, they were very quick to respond to me, very responsive. And that's a good thing. You know, when a journalist contacts you, I think it's good to be open and transparent. And
yeah, because we work with deadlines.
Right. And so they got back to me and they said, nope, nobody outside the school was contacted before we made this decision to narrow it down to two candidates.
Okay.
Right. And so it's that old saying that's falsely attributed to either Ben Franklin or Albert Einstein, which is keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, is the definition of insanity.
That's right.
Well, the statement is a valid one, irrespective of who originated it. And I don't understand why the university thinks it's a smart move to make to narrow down to two candidates for an interim dean spot without consulting with the legislature and folks in the executive, after it was precisely those individuals that objected the first time and caused you to pull the offer you made to the South Carolina professor.
Yeah, you embarrassed yourself, and you put the professor that you said you wanted to be the dean, made problems for them, because I'm thinking they probably notified the people at their end that they're going to be leaving the institution.